We're going to continue to look inside the Reader's Choice Challenge Resources and Logs folder. And inside there you will find the introductions we just looked at, and then finding and discussing great books. In here you have the book talk cheat sheet, and this is something that you're going to want to print out at the beginning of the school year. It's also in the Quick Start Guide as part of the printables. And this is something that you're going to want to have somewhere very handy so that you can use it easily every week. And for about 5 minutes at the end of each homeschool week, you are going to talk about the book that your student is reading. So there are some great tips here at the top, and I highly suggest that you please read that. And then you're going to just try asking 2 or 3 of these open-ended questions, and you can change it up to keep it interesting, but ask them these open-ended questions and see what kind of conversation comes from that. So by using this, you don't have to be reading the book that your student is reading to get a good pulse on whether he or she is understanding what they're reading. Also within this folder, there is the genre explanations and tracking. So in here, you're going to find a genre quick guide which tells you all the different genres and what they mean. And then you have 2 different types of tracking. There's the genre tracker. This has stars for 1 for each book that your child completes. And then there's also the genre graph. This is what the genre tracker looks like. The other page that is a graph has the same information, but instead it's in a bar graph form. So this has a star for each one of the book choices that your student will have this year. And you can see at the bottom there are 10 free choice stars, so that can be in any genre. And then these are the suggested number of books for each genre that we're hoping to help our students to hit. And so in order to fill these out, if your student chooses to do this digitally online, you just click on one of the stars, and then you go up here to the pour fill color, and you fill it with any color you want, and it fills it in. And the kids really like this. They think it's a lot of fun to fill it in. And these are Google assignments, so I can show in another tutorial how to do that, but that's the basic of it. The one thing within the Google assignment is a couple things. One, you need to be signed in your student's account, not the parent account, or it won't work. And you don't want to actually click submit until the very, very end, because once you click submit, you can't edit it anymore. And I can see this from my end, even if you haven't clicked submit, as long as you've started it. So, so there's no need to do that in order to share it with me. Now, alternately, you can print these out and keep them in your student's language arts folder and just physically fill in these stars and also the bar graph as your student finishes books. This is a look at the Reader's Choice Challenge graph, which, like I said, it's just a different way to show it. So in order to fill these in, you just click on the square that you want to fill in. You go up here to the fill color, just like before, and you click on whatever color, and it fills that in. So the difference with this is you'll notice there is not a column for free choice books, and that is because I would like for them on the graph to keep track of, even though it's a free choice book, which genre does it fall under. And that's really helpful later on when your student is trying to assess, you know, what are the really obvious genres that I gravitate toward, what are some genres that I'm enjoying and I didn't know that I would enjoy, that kind of thing. This graph can be really helpful with that. Now, often, because of those free choice books, often the category that your student will automatically gravitate toward is going to fill up really, really quickly. And if that happens, you can just print yourself another one and just start over again. And not over again completely, but in those areas where it was over and above, you can just continue going. So I would like them to keep track both with the tracker and with the challenge graph, because they do show different things. And as I said, if you're not comfortable with the technology, or it's just easier for you to print these out and have them in your child's folder and do it that way, that's completely fine as well. Now I'm back to our Reader's Choice Challenge folder, and in here we also have completed book logs. These are also Google assignments. So again, if you're not comfortable with the Google assignments, it's difficult for you, just print these out and put them in your language arts folder and fill them out manually, or even easier for this particular section, if you would prefer to not even use the forms that I have and just keep track in the Language Quest Journal, have a section in your Language Quest Journal where you're listing the books with the information that's on here, that is completely fine too. So whatever works best for your family is completely fine with me, as long as you're sharing this with me every conference. Here's a look at one of those completed books pages, and you'll see that we've got the title, the number of pages, the author, the genre, how did you choose the book, and then a rating. And if you're doing this digitally, it works the same way. You click on that star, you come up here and you choose a fill color, and it will fill it in. And I would like for you, even if you are doing this just on paper, in your Language Quest Journal, please go ahead and give it a rating. You don't have to actually do stars, but give it three stars or 4 stars for your rating. And then anything else that your student wants to remember about that book, it's a great time to write that down too. And speaking of Language Quest Journal, that's our last folder within the folder. And this is a want to and not a have to. So there is an element that it needs to happen, and that is that your child does need to have a Language Quest Journal. And that can be whatever you want that to be. It can be as simple as just a spiral lined notebook, or it can be something where it's a very special personal thing. I have found that for motivation, finding a journal that really has kind of a fun cover on it, getting some fun pens to go with it, that kind of thing will really help your student be motivated to want to use it more frequently. So what is a Language Quest Journal? Well, right here, this is in that folder. What is it? It is a place to collect quotes, to take notes when something moves or resonates with you, to jot down ideas, to embellish with doodles, to explore vocabulary, to plant seeds for later writing, to experiment with language, and to reflect uniqueness. So basically, the long and the short of it is this Language Quest Journal can be whatever your student wants it to be. It's kind of like a book diary, but it doesn't have to even just be about books. Last year, I had a student who was really moved by a politician's speech that he saw on TV, and he wanted to write down a quote in his journal, and then he brought it to school and he wrote it on our quote wall. That's completely fine. So that's why it says here, it's not just limited to books, it's also just language in general. Why do we have this? Well, the purpose is to cultivate a joyful reading life, to grow in observation skills, to connect with books, to remember and share ideas, to inspire playfulness and creativity, to celebrate language, and to build a lifelong habit. So this is something we started last year if you were in Flex last year, and I did very little with it. Mostly this lived with the book club, and it will continue to this year. So I will be bribing the heck out of students to get them to bring their Language Quest Journal to book club. So that's what I would really like for it where I would really like for it to be shared in class. So basically they are prompted in class, and also I will remind you via email to write down 1 or 2 or more, if they choose to, quotes or a picture or a couple sentences about something in the book that we're doing for book club that resonated with them. Either they thought it was funny, they thought it was interesting, it was something they didn't know. For whatever reason, it really doesn't matter. Maybe they really, really didn't like it and they want to share why. That's completely fine too. But they're going to write something down, bring it to book club to share with their group. And by doing so, they're going to earn a whole lot of FlexBucks. So that was mostly what we did with this last year. I'd like to branch out from that a little bit this year and encourage them to use it in other ways as well. But the Language Quest Journal is not a place to critique. It's not a place to insist on perfect spelling, handwriting, or grammar, to complicate it with many rules, to dictate its content or its form, or to compare with others. And we also don't want it to be viewed as a have to. Okay, it's different from the InfoQuest for history. The InfoQuest Journal for history is a have to. This is a want to. And what is your role? As a parent educator, your role is to spread the feast with an attractive journal, if you choose, to encourage participation, to praise their effort, invite conversation, ask them, hey, what did you write in your language quest journal about this book that you're reading. Would you mind sharing it with me? Model observation. When you notice a really interesting quote or when you hear somebody using beautiful language, point that out and share with your student what it was that you liked about that. And even better, if you have a language quest journal that you want to share with them, that's awesome. I also have a language quest journal, and I will be sharing some things from mine as well to model with our students. You can share wonder, like what we were just talking about. And then please respect this journal as a unique reflection of your child. Just like you wouldn't go critiquing your child's diary, you also don't want to set this up in that way either. So what are you going to do right now? What's the now what? So the now what is to select a journal and accessories to send with your child on week 1 of workshop. And as I said, that could be very, very simple, or it could be a little bit more elaborate. That's up to you. And there are also some things within this folder that can help you with ideas if you want some fun, creative ideas. And then, like I said, the only requirement is that you have it's a durable notebook, and there's a way to mark book quotes. And then you also can, as I said before, mark a place in the Language Quest journal to list the books that are being read, which would be a different place than where your student is writing down quotes and ideas. So this is actually how I've set up my Language Quest journal. I don't have the separate pages for listing my books. I have it in the back of my Language Quest journal, but as I list the books, I make sure that I have those pieces of information that I shared with you earlier for each book that I read. And finally, we get to the mandated portion of the Reader's Choice program. So you are going to find those lessons, which, as I mentioned before, are 1 day a week at home and then 1 day a week in class. So you're going to find the home lessons within either the 3rd grade Logic of English and Reading folder or the 4th grade folder or the 5th grade folder. It's the reading lessons. So I'm going to go ahead into the 4th grade folder, and I'm going to click on Reading. And inside of here, I'm going to just kind of randomly pick a week. And you will see that there is a home lesson listed and a class lesson listed. So your job is to do that home lesson on day 1, which would be the Monday for the homeschool lesson, and then we will be doing the in-class lesson later, depending on if you're on A or B track. This is what a home lesson looks like for 4th grade. 5th grade is very similar. In this particular unit, it's exactly the same. It will depend from unit to unit if it's the same or different. I do not write these lessons. Our curriculum writers do, and it's pretty straightforward. You just read through it, and it tells you exactly what to do if you need more help. It has the attachments, everything that you need to complete the lesson correctly. One thing that's different this year is that I will not be asking about these lessons in the homeschool checkup Google form. So but it's on your honor, that you're getting this lesson done, and then I will be checking it during conferences. 3rd grade reading lessons look a little bit different. As you can see inside this 3rd grade folder, there is just the home lesson listed, except for there's one here, class lesson. So the reason for this is that 3rd grade lessons for reading are very different than 4th and 5th, and obviously because we're a combo, I had to choose. So I'm going with mostly 4th and 5th grade lessons in class, and 3rd graders will just be along for the ride. So if 3rd graders miss a class day, they will not have a reading lesson to make up. But if 4th or 5th graders miss a class day, they will likely have a reading lesson to make up, and they will find that inside of their reading folders here. So if your student is in class, then you would just ignore the class lesson for 4th or 5th grade. This is only there in case your student is absent for reference sake, so that you can get caught up. One more thing I'd like to mention that's a little bit different for our 3rd graders versus regular A, B, or C track 3rd graders is that we will not be using the reader for Logic of English, and that is because our 3rd graders are also along for the ride for the IEW, which is a little bit more advanced for the 4th and 5th graders and also for our 3rd graders. So if you desire a Logic of English reader just because you want your student to be reading that, then just let me know and I can get those for you, but we will not be doing the readers lessons that are regularly written into the third grade curriculum.